On the cold frontier of the Alpha Kingdom, where endless wheat fields met rust-colored mountains, stood a village that the galaxy had forgotten. It had no name on any star chart. Trade ships avoided it. Patrol fleets never landed there. Travelers who passed nearby spoke in whispers, then hurried away before nightfall. Because a hooded girl lived there. Every morning she worked the fields alone, her face hidden beneath a dark cloak that never left her shoulders. Beneath the hood, faint silver markings glowed across her neck, wrists, and fingertips like liquid starlight trapped beneath her skin. No one had ever seen where the marks ended. No one dared ask. The villagers called her the Marked One. Children crossed the street when she approached. Shopkeepers refused her money and left food outside their doors. Some believed she carried an ancient plague. Others whispered she was the child of demons from the void between galaxies. Only the old village chief knew a fragment of the truth. If that girl ever removes her hood, he warned, do not look back. Run. But even he could not explain why. And the girl herself remembered nothing before arriving in the village as a child. Then the sky split open. Thousands of black warships descended through the clouds, their engines turning daylight into burning crimson. The banner of the Alpha Kingdom appeared across the heavens. The Alpha King had come. His decree echoed through the village. All citizens will surrender immediately. Anyone carrying forbidden genetic mutations will be taken alive. Moments later, the slaughter began. Homes exploded into fire. Soldiers dragged families into the streets. Smoke swallowed the harvest fields as terrified villagers screamed and fled. Yet in the center of the chaos, the hooded girl did something no one expected. She walked calmly into the village square. Above her, aboard his massive command warship, the Alpha King watched with cold indifference. He had conquered hundreds of worlds. He expected another frightened human begging for mercy. Instead, the girl slowly raised her hands to her hood. Nearby soldiers laughed. The cursed peasant wants to surrender. Her fingers trembled once. Then she pulled the hood away. Silence. Every weapon lowered. The wind itself seemed to stop. The silver markings across her skin flared like newborn stars, illuminating a face untouched by fear, impossibly familiar, impossibly alive. On the command deck, the Alpha King staggered backward. His heartbeat vanished. His knees nearly struck the floor. Because the face staring up at him belonged to Princess Lysera, the last heir of the first humans, a woman recorded in every imperial archive as having died 10,000 years ago. And for the first time in his life, the ruler of the galaxy looked afraid. Cliffhanger. Who is she? And why has the dead princess returned? The Alpha King raised his hand. Stop the attack. His command echoed across every battlefield channel. Within seconds, thousands of Alpha soldiers froze where they stood. Plasma cannons powered down. War machines fell silent. Even the flames consuming the village seemed less terrifying beneath the sudden, unnatural quiet. The generals stared at their ruler in disbelief. This was the same Alpha King who had conquered entire star systems without blinking. Mercy was a word erased from his vocabulary centuries ago. Yet now, because of one human village girl, he had halted an invasion that had been planned for years. None of them understood why. The girl understood even less. She looked around at the silent army, confused by the fear spreading across faces that moments earlier had shown only cruelty. She had spent her whole life believing she was cursed. Ever since she could remember, people had hidden from her glowing silver markings and whispered that disaster followed wherever she went. She had never wanted power. She had only wanted a place where no one looked at her with fear. Instead, every eye on the battlefield was fixed upon her. The Alpha King slowly descended from his command ship, his expression no longer cold but shaken, almost uncertain. Standing beside him was the oldest member of the royal court, a scientist who had served 4 generations of Alpha rulers. His hands trembled as he activated an ancient genetic scanner, a relic so old that few living beings knew how it worked. A beam of pale blue light swept across the girl's body. The device suddenly screamed with warning signals. Symbols forgotten by modern civilization flashed across its crystal display. The old advisor nearly dropped the scanner. "No," he whispered. "This cannot be possible." He scanned her again. The answer remained unchanged. She carried the complete genetic signature of the first humans. Not the ordinary humans scattered across the galaxy today, but the legendary civilization that existed before the Alpha Kingdom, before the Star Councils, before recorded history itself. For thousands of years, every history archive had claimed those humans were primitive, weak, and eventually wiped out. The archives had lied. The first humans had been explorers who built the galaxy's earliest gateways, scientists who seeded life across distant worlds, and guardians who united countless civilizations. When an unimaginable cosmic enemy emerged from deep space, they did not flee in defeat. They disappeared by choice, sacrificing their own empire to imprison a force capable of destroying all intelligent life. The girl's silver markings were never curse. They were a living biological cipher, a genetic master key designed to awaken hidden human technology buried beneath forgotten planets, abandoned moons, and silent star fortresses across the galaxy. At that moment, the Alpha King realized that everything his empire had been taught for 10,000 years was built upon a carefully crafted lie. But they were already too late. Far beyond the edge of known space, invisible listening stations detected the ancient genetic signal pulsing through the stars for the first time in millennia. Dark warships changed course. Sleeping hunters awakened. They had searched for the last heir of the first humans for centuries. Now, they finally knew exactly where to find her. Cliffhanger. The hunters are already on their way. No warning sirens echoed across the Alpha fleet. No distress signals reached the command bridge. One moment, the stars were calm. The next, they were on fire. A wave of jet-black warships emerged from invisible rifts in space, their hulls absorbing every trace of light. They carried no flags, no royal insignias, and no identification codes. It was as if they had been erased from history itself. Then they attacked. Thin crimson beams sliced through space with terrifying precision. The Alpha Kingdom's largest battle cruisers, ships that had survived hundreds of wars, were torn apart in seconds. Massive explosions lit the heavens as burning debris rained toward the planet below. Panic spread through the Alpha fleet. Generals shouted desperate orders. Pilots launched every fighter they had. None of it mattered. The mysterious enemy ignored military bases, supply stations, and defensive fleets. They flew past thousands of valuable targets without firing a single shot. Their objective was terrifyingly simple. The girl. A cold transmission echoed across every communication channel. Deliver the first human heir. Resist, and your empire will be erased. Every commander turned toward the Alpha King. This was the easiest decision any ruler could make. One life in exchange for billions. But the Alpha King did the unthinkable. He stepped in front of the frightened village girl and drew his blade. No one touches her. Shock rippled through the battlefield. His own generals stared in disbelief. His nobles immediately declared him a traitor to the throne. Across the empire, ambitious warlords refused his authority, believing their king had chosen a human over his own people. Within hours, loyal fleets turned their weapons on one another. The Alpha Kingdom plunged in a civil war. Amid the chaos, the king escaped with the girl and a handful of loyal soldiers, retreating to the only place the enemy seemed strangely unwilling to approach, the ruins buried beneath the forgotten village. Deep underground, they discovered a colossal chamber hidden beneath centuries of stone and roots. The girl stumbled as the silver markings on her hands brushed against a smooth crystal pillar. The world shook. A deep mechanical heartbeat echoed beneath the planet. Then another, and another. Ancient machines, silent for over 10,000 years, roared back to life. Towering metallic structures emerged from beneath the earth as layers of dust fell away. Across distant worlds, abandoned human vaults unlocked. Hidden research stations powered on. Forgotten orbital factories awakened from endless sleep. High above the planet, thousands of ancient satellites rose from dark orbits, linking together into a brilliant web of silver light stretching across the galaxy. The attackers froze. For the first time since their arrival, fear spread through their fleet. Their commanders recognized the impossible. The first human network, the legendary defense system believed to have vanished forever, had returned. Across countless civilizations, dormant beacons began broadcasting once more. Not a declaration of war, a promise. A promise that humanity's greatest legacy had never truly died. Hope, buried beneath 10,000 years of lies, was alive again. Then every machine inside the ancient chamber fell silent. A single beam of blue light descended before the girl. It formed into a glowing message that ignored everyone else in the room. Only she could see it. Only she could hear the voice. Guardian, if you can hear this, humanity has been waiting for you. Cliffhanger. The message reveals a truth that was never meant to be discovered. The ancient chamber fell into complete silence. The towering machines that had awakened only moments before stopped moving, as if they were waiting for permission to continue. A soft blue light gathered in the center of the room, growing brighter until it formed the image of a woman made entirely of shimmering energy. Her face carried no age, yet her eyes held the weight of countless centuries. When she finally spoke, her voice echoed through every corridor of the forgotten facility. Guardian Lysra, welcome home. The girl froze. She had never heard that name before. I'm not Lysra, she whispered. I'm only a village girl. The glowing figure smiled gently. You have always believed that because we wanted you to. The Alpha King watched in stunned silence as ancient symbols appeared across the walls, projecting forgotten memories into the air. Entire galaxies unfolded like living maps. Gigantic human cities floated among the stars. Fleets larger than planets crossed the heavens, not as conquerors, but as protectors. The AI introduced itself as EVA, the final intelligence created by the first humans. I have waited over 20,000 years for your return. The girl felt her heart race. Who am I? You are not merely a survivor, EVA replied. You are the last guardian of humanity. The room fell silent once again. Long before the Alpha Kingdom existed, the first humans had ruled no empire. Instead, they built alliances, shared knowledge, and helped younger civilizations rise. They believed power meant responsibility, not domination. Then the stars grew dark. A cosmic entity unlike anything the universe had ever known emerged from the endless void. It consumed worlds, civilizations, and even light itself. Every weapon failed. Every alliance collapsed. Humanity realized victory was impossible. So they chose sacrifice. Using technology far beyond anything that survived into the modern age, they sealed the ancient horror inside a prison hidden beyond the edge of known space. The cost was devastating. Their cities vanished, their fleets were destroyed, and history slowly forgot they had ever been the galaxy's guardians. But before they disappeared, EVA continued. They left one final heir, not to rebuild an empire, not to wear a crown, but to answer one question. Had the civilizations of the galaxy learned to stand together? Or would they repeat the mistakes of the past? The Guardian's DNA was the final lock protecting the cosmic prison. Without it, the seal could never be broken. With it, it could also be destroyed. The mysterious hunters were never ordinary invaders. They were servants of the imprisoned entity, searching across the stars for thousands of years. They needed only one thing to free their master. Her. The Alpha King finally understood the impossible truth. Protecting one frightened village girl no longer meant saving a single life. It meant saving every world that had ever existed. Without hesitation, he transmitted a message to every rival kingdom, every alien republic, and every species that had once sworn to destroy his empire. The age of conquest is over. Stand with us or watch the galaxy fall. To everyone's surprise, old enemies answer the call. Ancient rivalries were set aside. Fleets gathered from every corner of the galaxy, forming the greatest alliance in recorded history. As millions prepared for the final battle, a violent tremor shook the ancient facility. The stars projected above them flickered. Far beyond known space, glowing cracks spread across the massive prison that had held the cosmic horror for 20,000 years. The seal was failing. Cliffhanger. Something inside the prison had just opened its eyes. The final battle did not consume a single planet. It consumed the stars themselves. Across thousands of star systems, the united fleets of the galaxy stood against an enemy older than time. Entire constellations disappeared beneath waves of darkness as the ancient cosmic entity forced its way through the shattered prison. Every crack in its prison released storms of black energy that swallowed ships whole and silenced suns. Hope faded with every passing hour. Alliance fleets that had survived impossible battles were pushed back again and again. Entire civilizations prepared evacuation ships, believing this would be the last day in the history of intelligent life. Even the Alpha King tightened his grip on his sword, knowing that courage alone could not defeat a force that had once nearly erased humanity itself. Then the Guardian stepped forward. Deep inside humanity's ancient command sanctuary rested the Genesis Core, the most powerful creation ever built by the first humans. The Alliance commanders expected her to activate it as a superweapon capable of destroying the enemy, even if it meant sacrificing countless inhabited worlds in the process. Her hand hovered above the control crystal. Then she withdrew it. "No," she said quietly. This was never humanity's purpose. Instead of choosing destruction, she activated humanity's true inheritance. The Unity Network. In an instant, billions of dormant human satellites lit up across the galaxy like a river of stars. Ancient quantum relays linked every allied civilization together. Secret vaults unlocked. Lost libraries opened. Hidden factories awakened after 20,000 years of silence. Knowledge poured across the galaxy. Defensive shields instantly evolved, becoming strong enough to withstand the enemy's devastating attacks. Human medical technology healed wounded soldiers within moments and restored entire worlds poisoned by war. Forgotten shipyards produced fleets of autonomous Guardian vessels that joined the battle without a single pilot aboard. For the first time in history, every species fought as one. Not as rivals, not as conquerors, but as equals. The ancient enemy had defeated divided civilizations before. It had never faced a united galaxy. As thousands of fleets synchronized through the Unity Network, they struck together with perfect precision. The cosmic entity began to weaken. The prison's remaining energy merged with the Guardian's living genetic key, sealing every crack one final time. A blinding wave of light swept across the stars. Then, silence. The ancient darkness was gone. The war was over. When the survivors gathered beneath peaceful skies, the Alpha King approached the young woman who had once been feared as nothing more than a cursed village girl. Before millions of witnesses, he removed his crown, lowered his head, and knelt. Not because she had become an empress, but because she had reminded the entire galaxy that true strength was never measured by power. It was measured by the courage to unite those who had every reason to hate one another. Years later, the forgotten farming village became the birthplace of the Galactic Alliance, where leaders from every civilization met in peace instead of war. Children no longer whispered about the girl with the silver markings. Instead, they smiled as they heard the legend of the human who stopped an empire, united the stars, and gave the galaxy a future worth fighting for. But on the edge of another distant galaxy, an ancient beacon suddenly awakened. One forgotten signal crossed the endless darkness. Human expedition fleet returning home. Every observatory fell silent. Because if humanity's greatest explorers were finally coming back, then this legendary story had only been the beginning.